the American Diabetes Association.
Earthquakes. Whether or not we can feel them, thousands are happening every year in Canada. But what's causing them? How are they measured? And could we predict them? The Earth's core gives off heat, and that heat rises through the mantle and drives movement in the Earth's outer shell, the crust. Think of the crust like a giant puzzle made up of huge pieces called tectonic plates. As they collide and even get shoved under one another, we get earthquakes. Sometimes the motion is smooth, other times the plates get stuck, and the pressure builds up until...
The reason that we have earthquakes are because there's tectonic plates border Canada on both sides, and there's a lot of plate interaction, there's a lot of stresses, and where these plates bump up against one another, you get earthquakes, and that's why we have so many on the west coast of Canada. And the east coast of Canada, this is a failed rift zone along the St. Lawrence, so there are stresses that occur within the plate because of all the activity and bumping on the edges from other tectonic plates, and those are called intra-plate stresses.
An earthquake's magnitude is calculated by trying to measure the amount of energy released. Now, the scale we're all familiar with, the Richter scale...
It's about a 9 on the Richter scale, man.
6.9 on the Richter scale.
On a Richter scale.
Registered an 8.5 on the Richter scale.
That works best for the geography and types of earthquakes on the west coast, while the magnitude Nutley, developed by seismologist Otto Nutley, works best for nearly all the east coast. Lots of other types of scales are used around the world. Each earthquake is given a number on a scale. That scale is usually logarithmic. That means that each number represents shaking that is 10 times stronger than the one before.
4 is 10 times more than shaking than a magnitude 3. Magnitude 5 is 100 times more than magnitude 3, and so on as you go up the scale.
However, more and more seismologists are rating earthquakes according to the magnitude of the moment scale, which takes a little longer to calculate.
And it takes a look at the waveform, long period waveform data, so I mean lower frequencies at more distant stations. That's where the bulk of the energy is, and it tries to figure out how much energy was released at the actual source.
Another key measurement, intensity, or how strong the shaking feels at different locations.
When the rupture happens, as you go further away from the earthquake, the shaking starts to die off. And the amount of shaking that you experience is called intensity.
And then there's the aftershocks, smaller quakes that follow the main shock.
So an earthquake is a release of stress, and then there's sort of a redistribution of stress and other areas get strained. And the aftershocks are a subsequent release, usually around the epicenter of the earthquake.
These can be dangerous because a building or infrastructure damaged in the first quake could collapse during an aftershock. Canada detects around 4,000 to 5,000 earthquakes every year.
That seems like an awful lot, but if you look worldwide, the USGS, for example, locates over 20,000 on a yearly basis, and there are probably substantially more earthquakes than that actually happening.
Small quakes aren't always felt. Things like traffic or daytime activity can drown them out. Can we predict them? Not exactly, but early warning systems in Canada can alert people seconds to a minute before the shaking starts, depending on how far they are from the epicenter. Scientists can also give earthquake forecasts. That's a window of time wherein an earthquake of a specific magnitude might happen within a specific area.
So for example, the big one, the Cascadia subduction earthquake that everybody talks about, goes from about halfway up Vancouver Island all the way down to the Oregon-California border. That's the potential rupture zone offshore. The last one occurred in 1700. We know from the geologic timescale they can come every 250 up to 800 years. So we are now in the time window between now and roughly the next 500 years for another Cascadia megathrust earthquake.
So why does this all matter? Even without precise predictions, earthquake science helps shape Canada's building codes, ensuring structures like hospitals, schools, and power plants are built to withstand the shaking.
This shows where the strongest levels of shaking in Canada are, which you can see are here on the west coast. There's a few places up north, and then along this part of the St. Lawrence Seaway is subjected to stronger shaking as well. And this is all information used by the engineers in the National Building Code of Canada so that we can design homes and especially taller structures like hospitals and schools and power plants and things like that, to a code that prevents collapse of the structure.
So while we can't stop earthquakes or always see them coming, understanding how they work helps us prepare, build smarter, and stay safer. Because when the ground shakes, knowledge is one of our best defenses.